Hey guys, Corwin Stone, Global Creative Director, and been in this industry for quite a long time. I had the opportunity recently to have some really good conversations with the good people here at Black Creatives, and we were talking about what needs to change in our design community so that we can all be a lot more effective. As we know, the industry's changed dramatically, and it's still changing underneath us. For the most part, we see that the graphic design industry has evolved over the last 20, 30 years immensely. We went from traditional print medium being the only, source of work, commercial art, and advertising that we all, consumed as kids. But then, the web came along in the late 90s and we started seeing more of a digital movement. Then smartphones and flip phones came about. So obviously the move to digital has changed things a lot. And in the early 2000s, we had this one individual who was pretty much responsible for the majority of building websites, and it was your web designer. That designer was not only a developer, they were also a designer. They also handled research. They did a lot of different things. And over time, those roles split. The code language continued to evolve and become more complex and require a lot more from the browser. And then the design discipline changed course, and we started having to figure out how are we going to bring brands online and create these meaningful experiences. So there's a lot of layers that have come out of just this web and digital kind of movement, and we want you guys to be prepared for that if you decide that this is a path that you are going to pursue. There's still plenty of room for traditional design practitioners as it relates to branding and marketing and advertising. But we're seeing a change across the landscape. I mean, even in the marketing world, things are getting quite automated, right? Data is helping to really drive decisions on headlines, content, graphics, and we're starting to see a lot more automation and programmatic marketing solutions that are minimizing the need for all disciplines. So your role is changing. It's not going away. You're having to develop and evolve into a different type of design practitioner to continue to add value to the organization or the company or the clients or the brands that you represent. Now, one thing that you've probably heard, and it has become more of a bumper sticker than anything, is that print is dead. I'm into these cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin right now and all that kind of stuff. It's quite fascinating in the blockchain technology. And I was listening to an interview and somebody said years ago, you should invest in cryptocurrency. You should invest in Bitcoin. And they said, oh, Bitcoin is flawed. It's going to die. They said, yeah, but it's a long way till its demise. And I thought that was interesting. And the same was like print. Some say print is dead, and we heard that back in the 90s. And print's obviously not dead. When I go into bookstores, there's still tons of magazines, comic books, but we see that there is obviously a tremendous spike in the digital consumption and more online activity. Newspapers are definitely declining for a variety of different reasons, but it's not dead yet. But you want to make sure that you're well disciplined to be able to be a great print designer as well as a great digital designer. We're starting to see roles change, right? The role of a product designer, where all I used to have to be concerned with was actually a physical component that I would create. And now we're seeing that those physical components also have a software component that need an interface or a brand or a advertising vehicle or a video layer or an animated layer to it. Right, so we're starting to really see these mergings of all these technologies and all these different disciplines to create experiences for consumers. And it's super exciting. But what it does require is it requires all of us to change. It requires all of us to adapt. It requires all of us to be ready for the future. On my teams, I really don't make it much about design. On my teams, it's really about leadership. It's really about looking to the future. It's really about being forward thinking. And it's really about preparing designers for what's coming next. The majority of my team is under 30, and I know that they still have another good 20 or 30 years with this craft that they love. So how can we effectively position them to be here and relevant in the future? You have to look to the future. You have to think with a more entrepreneurial mind. You have to be more innovative. But it's challenging to be innovative and think with an entrepreneurial mind while you're also working inside of a corporation or supporting client requests and needs. So those are some of the things that I want to share with you and how we can bridge those gaps. How can we still be forward thinking? How can we still solve these problems that everybody has as it relates to reaching your customer and serving them better, right? How do we solve these problems inside of a corporate environment? How do you solve them for a specific client? These are some of the things that we definitely want to share and help you work through. Now, as it relates to working in a product-centered environment, I think we all say, wow, it'd be great to work for Snapchat, or it'd be great to work for Facebook, or it'd be great to work for Apple or Google or any other software company, SiriusXM or AT&T, you name it, right? You really have to ask yourself, are you prepared to go into those environments and thrive and actually add value? And if you're looking to really be innovative and move the needle, are those the right places for you? Some of you may have changed your title on your resume or on your job description, and you're trying to say, I need to get a job, or I need to be considered and show up in this search query, so I'm going to put UX UI designer in my title. And a lot of times we don't know what that means. So, over the course of these conversations, I definitely want to make sure we clearly expose what all these different disciplines mean and how you might find your place in the market, right? Your place in this new world order. We don't want to get too comfortable here, though, because the world is changing. Augmented reality is a reality, right? Virtual reality is a reality. There are so many different types of technologies that are on the horizon that are going to require us to continually change and evolve, and I want you to be prepared for that. I'm going to share with you and have some conversations with a very good friend of mine. His name is Jesse. He's a great guy, and he has went from a junior marketing traditional brand designer to a visual designer in a product organization, to a interaction designer in another product organization, to a user experience designer for a conversational intelligence company, now to another level of designer working with style guides and component libraries for another big company. All of those disciplines are necessary, and all of that is most likely going to happen to some of you in your career as you evolve over the next 5 or 10 years. Jesse happened to do it in 3 years. That's why I really like this guy and really love his story, and it's very inspiring, but it just simply demonstrates what's required. As this new world reveals itself and as things change, we have to be ready to change. We see how design is becoming more and more commoditized. You can buy great design online for very, very low prices. If you're building a website, you can download a template and not really have to learn any code or do any design work. Just change out your content and customize the experience for yourself. We're also seeing how different product innovations are changing that for us. For example, I'll quickly share with you a small story. I'll share with you more in the future, but I have met an amazing designer out of Paris, and he demoed for me a product that they've built from their component library and their style guide, essentially, where they can literally drag and drop components onto a grid system, much like you would in Sketch or Illustrator or any other kind of application, where you can grab a component off a list of options, of object options, and drag it onto the interface, and voila, you have that, and you can start tweaking and modifying it. They built a very similar system, but for complex financial banking software. I told him, I said, this looks like it's really eliminating the job of the designer, the interaction designer, the researcher. He said, no, absolutely not. Quite the opposite. We need designers now more than ever to better understand what our customers' needs are. Because now, where you might just actually design the bits and then hand it off to a developer, now you're actually designing the bits and producing a physical product that we then assign values to these components and bolt it to various databases so that it can pull the data into the system that we need. So it's like, no, it's not that we don't need designers. Designers are evolving and taking on a different role inside of the product build and design organization. So that's a great story. I'm definitely going to have him join us, and it's an amazing evolution of where the product world and where our design world is going. He helped me not to be fearful, so I don't want you to be fearful. We just have to be ready to evolve. So with that, it's a little introduction of some of the things I hope to share with you. I definitely want you to get something out of it. The people at Black Creatives really want you to get something out of it as well. And we're going to put together this material, this content, these insights, and share with you. And we look forward to meeting you and seeing where are you at in your career, how can we help you evolve and grow, and even hear your stories of things that you've had to do or testimonies of how you've succeeded and overcome in this changing time. So with that, would love for you to leave a comment, ask questions, because we're going to take those questions and research it, find the answers, give it back, develop courseware, develop a series of discussion talks, talk to other great influencers in the industry so that we can make sure that you go on to greatness in your career. It's been a pleasure. Looking forward to seeing you again and talking to you again. Have a good day.